Hey everybody, my name's Robert,
And I'm Jonathan.
and we are here to talk to you about our new line of beautiful adventure tokens.
Yes, very exciting. We really did a lot of new things with this token set that we haven't done before. Most notably, it being all in wood.
What?
Yeah, it's very cool. And there are two types of wood that we used, just particularly to distinguish the good things from the bad things, so to speak. So all of the bad things, all of the damage, the miscellaneous token, the stuff that could impact you in a negative way is in mahogany. And then the stuff that is the good things, the things that you want on your cards are in the cherry. So actually, it really easy to differentiate.
That's right, and to kind of dive into that a little bit deeper, that was one of our initial concerns is how readily distinguishable are these tokens one from another. Because doing them in wood, well, of course, there's only going to be so many shades, and
Yes.
certainly far fewer distinct shades or colors outright than tokens past that we've made. So not only did we have two different types of wood, like Jonathan's saying, to help distinguish that, but then also the fundamental design of each on their respective type of wood is uniquely different in a way that will further augment that. So you want to talk a little bit more about that, John?
Yeah, well, that's something that definitely came up in playtesting as we were playing with these tokens, the different versions of these tokens. It did become apparent that they were just too similar. We were burning them all in cherry, or even in cherry and mahogany, they were almost too similar. So we really went as deep as we could to differentiate these tokens. And I think we accomplished that. If you look at the damage, they have their own border around them, which is basically it's knocked out the entire edge of it. So it is a rough edge. It is a darker edge.
Deeply engraved.
Deeply engraved,
Yeah.
yes. And so you can see from actually a very far away point that they are very much different. And the same thing, honestly, with the miscellaneous token. But we'll get into that. We're actually going to go
treachery
through
token.
the treachery token.
The treachery token.
We're going to go through design by design and kind of talk about all of the things that went into it.
Yeah, what are we going to kick it off
Well,
with?
we'll kick it off with the thing that kicks off everything, which is the first player token.
That's right.
And
It's big and beautiful.
It's
Look at
big and it's beautiful. It's actually one of my favorite tokens of the set. It was designed very late in the design phase, but we basically sat around and we thought, okay, what would symbolize being the first player? What would symbolize being the person at the head of the adventuring party, going on these wild adventures? And there was a couple of things that were because with all these, and we'll hit this point a lot, we really dove into the lore to sort of find out what would fit the most with the adventures that you and your friends are going to be having. And so we had some frilly things. We had this, that, and the other thing, but
It's like
really
a campfire.
there's a campfire,
a bunch
yeah.
of other different things. A shield, maybe. I can't
I
remember.
think there was a shield. I'm trying to remember what all of it. Anyhow, once we settled on the backpack, it just made so much sense.
It clicked.
For a variety of reasons. One, if you're the first player, you're shouldering the load. So symbolically you're wearing the backpack. But also, and I thought this was cool, like if you were, let's say, walking down a trail, everyone's going to see the leader's backpack.
That's right.
That's the one thing that everyone can say. The leader's not going to see a backpack. Everyone else will see their backpack. So being able to designate the leader by a backpack was very cool and sort of really draws you into the fact that you are questing.
Yeah, exactly. You're going on an adventure. You're doing something out generally in the wilds of Tolkien's Middle Earth. So that's like a big inspiration of like what made us go that way. And then of course it has 9 sides for very obvious reasons.
Yes. There's a lot of that was the thing. Yeah, there was the original one had all sorts of different like numbers that were important. And eventually it was pared down to this backpack and a 9-sided token, which should hopefully be apparent
Right.
as to why there were 9 sides chosen. Moving on, we've got the quest token, which is actually one of the
My faves.
most difficult to come up with a symbol
Have a
for
look at
that. We definitely tossed it around a lot. Robert was instrumental in coming up with what symbolizes a quest completed within the world. And there is all sorts of things that it potentially could be.
Yes.
Because there are a lot of quests being complete all over the
By all kinds of different people.
By all kinds of
Races
different people
and
in
what
all
have
sorts of
you.
different ways.
Yeah.
But really, we wanted to settle on something very simple, but also like a very powerful symbol.
Iconic. Yeah.
Yeah, very iconic. And so this leaf really appears a lot as you read through the lore. As you go through the pictures and the art and even Tolkien's original sketches. This particular leaf has become, I think, very symbolic of completing a quest, of getting to some sort of home base being rewarded for what you've done, and then going out and doing it
Exactly.
again. So that was a really, really big deal that we wanted to do, and it was a very fun thing for me to sketch this because it's just so full of I don't know, energy, if that's like a really weird term, but like these leaves particularly,
The potential energy.
yeah, potentially these leaves particularly have like they mean so much to the people that receive them, and being able to put the little frilly stuff around it, being able to do all that stuff, it was fantastic.
Yeah, and worth noting though that it shows up first on this token since we're talking about it. That frilly little border is the kind of like structured yet organic feel that I expect from Middle Earth. It's just like, no, I know what I'm getting into, but at the same time, it's not like as structured of a place as say like Westeros in Game of Thrones, or even the galaxy within Star Wars. It's just like, you know, it's there, but things are moving. It's free flowing.
And that's one of the things that's really cool is that, especially about the idea of elves within Middle Earth, of which Robert is a huge fan, is that they are both like a symbol of perfection and a symbol of the wildness of nature. And so like you get that a lot where it's perfect, but not in the way the dwarves would think of perfect.
Yes.
It is perfect in its own way because it is like it's bending and it's changing with and ebbing and flowing within like the natural world.
Yeah.
It is very much a natural thing, and that was really something that we wanted to capture with the border, particularly of the quest.
Yes. And well done.
And so moving on, like
talk to us about the next quest token.
The next quest token was a challenge and also a relief ultimately.
I think we spent the most time on this
We
token.
spent the most time. I think there was like 20 or 30 versions of this token made. Like it was ridiculous. I drew so many sketches. Finally, we it was originally it was variations on the leaf pattern, trying to put 2 or 3 leaves, trying to do more with the frilliness, and nothing worked. Everything was just too muddled, and that was one of the challenges with wood actually. Everything was too muddled, but eventually we thought, well, you know, if we're trying to put a lot of leaves on a token, why not just put a tree?
Just put a big old tree.
That's where all the leaves come from.
That's right.
And so we actually did a lot of reading, did a lot of research. Robert was very helpful in pointing me towards a lot of the very serious Lord of the Rings artists from way back in the day, like not the ones that are associated with the movies or the films or anything else.
But from Tolkien on down, there's always been this continuity of the Forested Realms in particular being this place of like final or ultimate repose or strength even, and that echoes in all the ages really of Middle Earth's history. So it seemed an appropriate tie-in because it's like you always go back to the trees.
Yes. And you find that one tree, you know, and it's like, oh wow, like we are now safe. You know?
Yeah, totally, man.
And again, that's another place where gifts are given and things happen. And so we wanted to symbolize that. But at the same time, we also wanted to give the players the ability to decide their own designation for this token, because that was one of the challenges whenever we were designing it. But initially, one of the things that freed us so much is that this game is a game where you are not playing in necessarily a competitive environment. You're not trying to kill your opponent. So knowing what a token means to begin with is not as necessary.
Right.
You can say, oh, this is, we're doing a lot of heavy questing, like this will be worth 5. This is more of a lighter quest, this will be worth 3.
That's right.
And that way you can establish that to begin with. So there's no real denomination given to it for that very reason. So that you can let it ebb and you can let it change within your own game.
The context of the quest itself. And I think that was a fine middle ground.
Yes. Yes. And so moving on then to things that actually do have some very real designations, although if you want to, you can change them to what you want. And that is the resource token. And
they are extremely pretty.
Thank you. Well, and they do have some Elven that I believe that was translated into actual Elven words. Hopefully we got that right. Robert is very, very knowledgeable in the Middle Earth universe and used all of his resources.
But hardly an expert.
So we first of all, let's talk about the borders since we're talking about it.
Yes, borders indeed.
Everything. So both the resources, both the quests have their own unique border. Both the resources have their own unique border, etc. They're the same thing with the damage, and the same thing finally with the treachery. So for these, we decided to pick out like elven quotes.
Correct.
And particularly elven quotes about resources, kind of in the large part resources,
prosperity,
power
prestige,
to do things, prestige, yes.
A very open-ended kind of idea of like, what is a resource? Because even specifically within the game, you know, sometimes paying for something it could be within the vein of like, oh, it is literally material wealth, or sometimes it's just your influence that gets this guy to join up and be your ally.
Simply power.
Exactly.
And so we wanted to stay away from coins for that reason, because it wasn't just wealth. But if you look at Middle-earth, you see gems being used in a lot of different ways.
Yes.
From the very beginning, they are symbols of power. And actually, my initial sketch was trying to capture one of those, and there was just too multifaceted. Once it got on the thing, it did not work at all.
What are we looking at?
Yeah, it's like this is just a bunch of geometric shapes. I don't understand it. So that was why we chose the gems over the coins, because it was, like Robert was saying, more about wealth, more about influence than necessarily just throwing money at things.
And yeah, and even in some of the stories in Middle-earth and from Tolkien in general, even if you do have a gem, it's not like, oh, I'm going to give you this gem for stay in the inn for the night, but I'm going to give you this gem because you did something awesome for me, and I can't really put a price tag on that. So here's something that does have material significance, but ultimately it's a little abstract. So that made sense.
Yeah, it made sense, and it made sense to put 3 on the one that was worth 3 resources.
That's right.
So that's basically how we did the resources. And then to really the most exciting part for me is the damage. I just wouldn't, like, Lord of the Rings is it's a game that is, well, this game is really, there's a lot of different characters in this game.
Yes.
And each of these characters is doing something differently and doing it their own way. And I think that's one of the things that's most appealing about the world, is that you do have all these different cultures behaving in their own ways, dealing their own damage in ways that is unique to them.
Exactly.
And so that was something we really, really, really wanted to bring out.
And I think that shows, like, specifically in each one. So if I were to just draw real quick here, each of the 4 different damage tokens, there is a sword, an axe, a spear, and then an arrow. The sword, to me, is just right off the bat a human-looking sword.
Yes.
It's got room for 2 hands. It just has the proportions just from the hilt that makes me think, oh yeah, that's a human-looking sword. Go to the axe. I mean, how do you not make a dwarfy-looking axe?
Yeah.
So yeah, you've incorporated these geometric elements into it because, of course, dwarves and all of their aesthetics are all about geometry and symmetry there. So
and that was one of the things that one of the initial, not to say struggles, but I had initially sketched this axe here, which is more like wild. It's got some of the ratios are off, and then Robert came back and he was like, "Look, these are dwarven axes. You've got to go back." And so like the next one I sketched is just like, all right, here it is. It's perfect. You know, exactly like what a dwarf would take in a battle. You know? I think that's accurate. I think
all these angles are precise. All the spaces between everything is exact. So just like a dwarf would have
Just like a dwarf would have it.
And then the next step is the spear, which to me is, it's hard to, at least within the context of Middle-earth and Tolkien stuff, not have a spear just kind of be inherently elven a little bit to me. But this one captures that, I think, very nicely. It's a balanced thing. It's not just like a pointy stick or something like that that's too simplistic, like I would expect from a human or something like that, or something that was, I guess, a little bit overborne from a dwarf. But this is a balanced looking headpiece of a spear, and it's doing some crazy damage right there.
Yeah, it is doing some crazy damage. It's going right into the whatever it's going into.
Poking people.
But yeah, it has some embellishments too.
Yes.
You know, the elves always find time for embellishments, and so that was very important to put on there. And then lastly, the arrow, which actually went through a couple of revisions, so we didn't know how much of the arrow to show. It was a very weird series of discussions we had at Team Cabinet of like how much arrow is too much arrow,
how much is too much,
how much is too little.
This arrow is a little too PG-13.
But you know, that's the thing. Like, if you have an archer, you want to see your arrow sticking in the thing, because you're not gonna. And just like, I mean, that was really the thing for me, as I'm a dwarf guy. And as a dwarf guy, I don't want any like nambly-pambly elven stuff to like be associated with me. I want to go in there with an axe and just lop something off. And the same thing with an archer. If you're out in the woods plugging things
Pew,
away,
pew,
you
pew.
want it to be like very apparent that like
Yes.
this is the damage that's been done by me, by my arrows, from my quiver to this
Well,
thing's
I
heart.
mean, even when you think of, I think the most iconic moment from either the books or the movies. Let's be honest. When Boromir got shot up,
Yes.
and he's got
Yes,
three
yes,
just
yes.
giant arrows just like sticking right out of him. So it's like, yeah, he's taking some damage. So I think again, it's like, yeah, we want to see what's been done here.
Yeah, and being able to like recreate that moment, you
Mhm.
know, see the arrows in the in your enemy, in the person, or even in you, you know, if you've been shot.
But like I think I also remember even having a discussion with the arrow, like how much of the little like pip at the end behind the fletching
That's true.
is going to be there that is or isn't part of that kind of etched out border there, and just a lot of little considerations
Yeah,
like that. And
it
looks finely balanced to me.
it may not seem like it, but there were all of these were hotly debated over until we really got to a place that both we were able to make on the token in a way that looked good every time, and also in a way that fit the lore and the world in a way that would make you excited about playing with them every time you brought them out.
A perfect blending of form and function.
So hopefully we achieved that. And then lastly, my personal favorite, maybe,
That
I don't know,
treachery token.
the old treachery token. This went through about 1,000 revisions as well.
Yeah, talk to us about that.
Well, so honestly, the problem is that if you're gonna make a giant eye in the sky with a bunch of flames and stuff around it, there's gonna be a lot of noise. There's
Yeah.
gonna be a lot of like, you know, little lines,
Graphical noise. Yeah,
and
yeah.
so it was really a difficult challenge to be able to create the noise that you want to have this eye that's like kind of teeming with power.
Yeah.
And at the same time be able to see it from across the table, be able to know immediately upon seeing it what it is. And there was again 100 designs, not 100.
Yes.
A lot of designs.
Show us that one. Show that one to the camera.
This one right here?
Or that sketch.
Oh yeah, so this is actually, strangely enough, I was actually having a really bad day whenever I drew this, and I was just like,
It's
I'm
a
going
very
to draw the
angry
angriest eye that I can. So that's where it started, but as you can see, there's like a lot of noise down here, a lot of noise up here. The eye's not necessarily balanced, so it went in. The pupil was changed out. A bunch of different things were done to make it to where it actually like popped out and looked nice and didn't look too busy, because that was really one of the things that. It's again a balance, just like everything else we've done here, is making it look clear and also making it look natural, because I think really the world is such a natural world, and you touched on that earlier.
Yeah, and I think you nailed it here, because one of the other challenges that I think was really distinct between this line of tokens and some of our previous ones is that all we have to work with here is the natural surface of what this wood material offers us, and then what does it look like once it's been etched out. Unlike some tokens where we could not only etch it out but then fill it with some paint to just enhance the contrast.
To make it pop.
Couldn't do that here, so it was almost like a similar process to what people might do with like carving out a pumpkin.
Yes.
You have the areas
Yes.
of light, you have the areas of dark, and you have to like play with their interaction to bring out everything that you want to see there. And I would also like to carve this into a pumpkin.
I think one day we should make a Covenant eye pumpkin.
That's
a
right.
treachery pumpkin. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Is there anything else that's on your mind to talk about?
No, but I think we pretty much cut everything. And again, you know, our desire here was to have a look and a feel that was appropriate for the game and just the world at large, because it's a natural place, so we needed to go with something that wasn't our tried and true acrylic token stuff, so wood was appropriate, and then everything was deeply vetted and invested in with all the lore and history that we could find.
Yeah,
and it really,
at every turn we considered the lore. At every turn we considered the history. You know, I have a whole folder of like desktop backgrounds that I have of just like old token, you know, like the Tolkien stippling stuff and all that kind of stuff. It's fantastic to go back and really watch the world evolve and make sure that these find a place within that.
Yeah, so that's how we went about things to make what you see here, and we have them in a variety of different sets depending on how many players you're generally playing with, and of course they're all available individually. So we hope you guys really dig them. You can find them all on our store, and we really appreciate everybody who takes a dive into the deep end with us on this one, because we're really proud of these, and we hope you guys like them too. Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for watching. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate your support. Again, this is probably the longest token set to make, because it's all hand drawn. Like it's like, oh, we'll do that again. All right. Well, It's not like on a computer where I can move a couple of pixels
Yeah.
around. So really the success of our previous token sets, the fact that you guys are buying stuff from us, allow us to take more time and do more exciting things. And so the more that happens, the more cool stuff comes out from us. And I just thank you for the ability to do that.
Yeah, thanks so much, guys, and we'll catch you next time.